Have you ever noticed how a certain kind of older man can walk into a room and instantly change the atmosphere without even speaking? He's not chasing attention. He's not competing with the noise. And yet, younger women can't stop themselves from turning their heads. It isn't simply about his bank account, his job title, or the lines on his face. There's something far more subtle at play. It's the quiet force in the way he carries himself. It's the way he flirts without performing. How he radiates an edge without even trying. It feels as if time serves him, not threatens him. Younger men often do the opposite. They scramble to impress, filling the air with forced jokes and exaggerated gestures. They flex. They compete. They overcompensate. But the seasoned man who has learned self-mastery doesn't bother with any of that. His presence alone is enough to spark curiosity. He doesn't chase approval. He pulls her in with mystery. She leans forward, wondering, who is this man? And that intrigue, that silent pull, intoxicates her in ways no rehearsed pickup line ever could. Now, let's be clear. What we're talking about here isn't gimmicky tactics or memorized routines. These are deep psychological triggers wired into how women naturally respond to masculine energy. They're supported by evolutionary psychology, sharpened through lived experience, and refined through a Stoic mindset. And today, I'm going to break down the 7 most powerful flirting behaviors older men use, the ones that don't just create attraction, but build a désir. Once you understand them, you'll never see flirting in the same light again. Here's a truth many men don't want to face when it comes to flirting. Younger guys sabotage themselves. They confuse loud energy with confidence. They mistake constant humor for genuine charm. They believe endless compliments equal attraction. But to most younger women, it feels needy. It feels like he's auditioning, performing for approval. And the second she senses that, the spell is broken. Because desire doesn't grow from a man proving his worth. It comes from a man who doesn't need to. This is where older men turn the tables. They're not scrambling for the spotlight. They're not fighting to be the loudest in the room. They let silence do the heavy lifting. They understand a well-timed pause can land harder than a rushed compliment. They know steady eye contact, calm, grounded, unshaken, communicates more than any polished line. It's not that they refuse to flirt. It's that their flirting is so subtle, so controlled, that it carries an almost dangerous edge, and women crave that tension. Think of it this way. A young man is like a firework, loud, bright, explosive, but gone in seconds. An older man is like a fireplace, steady, magnetic, and warm, the kind of flame you can sit beside for hours. That's the real challenge most men face today. Too many are busy trying to be fireworks, when what women secretly crave is the fire that lasts. And here's the hard truth: if you don't make this shift, you'll always be seen as the guy who tries too hard. You'll be remembered as background noise, not as the man she can't stop thinking about. So the question becomes, what are the subtle, almost invisible tricks older men use to draw women closer, instead of pushing them away? That's what we're about to uncover. Flirting trick 1, the power of presence. The very first and most overlooked way older men spark attraction isn't found in clever words or polished lines. It's not about what comes out of their mouths. It's about how they show up. presence. It sounds simple, but in today's distracted world, it has become rare. Watch most men on a date, and you'll notice the same pattern. They can't sit still. They fiddle with their drink, glance at their phone, or rush to fill every second of silence with meaningless chatter. It's as if they're terrified of letting a moment breathe. But the older man, the one who has walked through storms, understands something younger men do not. Presence is the highest form of attention. When he speaks, he does not hurry. When she speaks, he doesn't interrupt. He listens, not with desperate eyes begging for approval, but with calm, steady focus. That still energy tells her something powerful. I'm not sitting here because I need you. I'm here because I choose to be. It's subtle, but it creates an entirely different frame. Psychology supports this truth. Research on attraction shows that women respond more strongly to the quality of attention than to the quantity. A man who listens with patience, who maintains unbroken eye contact, creates both a sense of safety and a ripple of tension at the same time. It's a paradox. The calmer you remain, the more electricity she feels. Younger men often think excitement equals attraction, but real attraction is born from controlled restraint. And here's the secret: presence cannot be faked. You can flash wealth. You can recite clever lines. But if your energy is scattered, she feels it instantly. Her instincts detect when a man's mind is elsewhere. On the other hand, if you sit across from her with grounded focus, if you carry yourself like someone who has nothing to prove, she senses it in her body before she even names it in her mind. That's why the older man can be quiet, say almost nothing, and still command the room. Presence does not mean passivity. It isn't about being silent for silence's sake. It's about being anchored. It's about radiating the message, I am steady. I am unshaken. I do not need to fight for your attention, because my very being is enough. And in a world where every man is shouting louder, the man who doesn't shout at all becomes unforgettable. That's why this first secret has nothing to do with clever words. It lives in your silence, in your steady gaze, in the way you occupy space without apology. It's not a trick you memorize. It's a state you embody. But here's the brutal truth. Most men will realize too late: if you can't master presence, every other trick will fail. You'll always sound like the guy who tries too hard. The background noise, she forgets. And once she puts you in that category, it's almost impossible to climb out. So ask yourself, are you the man who fidgets, talks endlessly, and proves nothing but nervous energy? Or are you the man who can sit in stillness, grounded, magnetic, and let her lean into your silence? Because what comes next builds on this foundation. Without presence, the rest collapses. And in the next secret, you'll see how contrast, knowing when to give and when to withhold, creates a tension so addictive that once she feels it, she'll never see you the same way again. Flirting trick 2, the subtle tease of contrast. There's something younger men almost always miss when it comes to attraction. Desire thrives. In contrast, a younger guy often tries far too hard. He showers her with endless compliments. He explains every detail of his life. He tries to prove just how interesting he is. But an older man, he knows the real art of connection isn't about overwhelming her, it's about rhythm. He teases with restraint. He offers just enough warmth to spark her interest, then pulls back into composure. It isn't manipulation. It isn't a trick. It's rhythm like a song that keeps you hooked. Not because it blasts sound at you every second, but because of the pauses, the beats, the spaces in between. Psychologists have a name for this, the intermittent reinforcement effect. When attention or reward is given unpredictably, it becomes addictive. Casinos are built on this principle. So are relationships. A woman doesn't crave the man who hands out validation like candy, offering it every second until it loses all value. She craves the man who makes her earn a slice of his attention, then rewards her with a subtle smile, a sharp remark, or that calm but piercing eye contact that lingers longer than expected. Picture this for a moment. She teases you with a playful comment, fully expecting you to react like every other man. Most guys would leap at the bait, laugh too loudly, or compliment her instantly. But you pause. You let silence stretch. Let a slow grin spread across your face. Then you deliver a line that both acknowledges her and challenges her at the same time. That moment sticks in her memory. Why? Because it isn't predictable. It isn't desperate. It's deliberate. Here's the hidden layer. Most men overlook teasing only works if you're comfortable with the possibility she won't like you for it. Younger men can't handle that. They're terrified of rejection, so they drown her in constant approval. But the older man understands a powerful truth: attraction isn't lost when you refuse to bend to her. It's ignited when you don't. He's willing to let silence hang without rushing to fill it. He's willing to risk that she doesn't laugh at the joke, or that she doesn't get it right away. That risk, that boldness, is exactly what makes the tease intoxicating, because it shows her you're not afraid to stand your ground. It shows her you're not performing for her approval. And paradoxically, that's when she leans in closer, hungry to understand you more. Contrast is what separates noise from music. It's what turns attention into addiction. And it's what transforms ordinary flirting into something magnetic. But here's the part that will sting if you don't master it without contrast. You'll always blend into the crowd. You'll sound like every other man fighting for scraps of validation. And once she labels you as predictable, you'll never be the spark that lingers in her thoughts. So the question is, are you willing to risk silence? To risk not being understood? To risk her confusion so that she feels the addictive pull of wanting more, because the next secret builds on this very risk. And when you see how slowing time itself becomes your greatest weapon, you'll understand why younger men rush and why older men never need to. Flirting. Trick 3, the power of slowed-down presence. One of the most magnetic qualities of an older man is not his style, his status, or even his words. It's how he carries time itself. Younger men rush. They speak quickly. They fidget. They check their phones. They scramble to fill every pause with nervous chatter. They fear silence like it's their enemy. But an older man knows the truth. When you slow down, you take command of the entire room. You dictate the rhythm of the interaction. And without realizing it, she begins to fall into your tempo. This isn't opinion, it's science. Psychologists who study communication consistently find that measured speech and deliberate pauses are signals of confidence and authority. Think of the contrast. On one side, the nervous intern at a meeting, words spilling out in a flood, trying desperately to impress. On the other, the seasoned leader who pauses, lets silence breathe, and then delivers a single sentence with weight. One voice is forgettable. The other commands respect. Attraction works the exact same way. Now imagine her energy in real time. She's bubbling with excitement, speaking quickly, testing you with speed. Most younger guys would match her pace, laugh fast, talk faster, trying to keep up. But the older man leans back. He locks eyes. He slows the pace, and when he finally responds, his words come out calm and deliberate. The result: her tempo shifts. She begins to mirror his energy. She starts tuning into his frame instead of pulling him into hers. That's not just flirting, that's leadership. And here's the part most men completely miss: women associate rushing with insecurity. When you speed up, you reveal you're trying to chase her approval. But when you slow down, you send a deeper message. I have nothing to prove. I have nowhere else to be. I am grounded right here. You become like the mountain, still, solid, immovable. And she becomes the one adjusting to your gravity. You are no longer the leaf tossed around by the wind. You are the force of nature itself, dictating the weather around you. That's why an older man's presence feels irresistible. It's not about fancy words. It's about how he bends time around his presence. He makes silence heavy. He makes patience magnetic. And that's why women lean in without even understanding why. But here's the brutal truth. If you keep rushing, if you keep scrambling to fill every silence, you'll never escape the category of men who try too hard. And once she sees you that way, it's almost impossible to change her mind. So ask yourself, are you rushing to keep up? Or are you slowing down so she has to follow your lead? Because the next secret builds on this foundation. And when you discover how withholding validation turns silence into fire, you'll realize why slowing down was only the beginning. Flirting trick 4. The subtle tease of withholding validation. One of the easiest mistakes younger men make is giving too much, too fast. They drown women in compliments. They laugh at every joke, even the weak ones. They pour validation as if it were water leaking from a broken faucet. At first, she might smile, but soon, it becomes predictable. And once it's predictable, it becomes cheap. The older man has learned a deeper truth. Real attraction is not built by chasing. It is built by tension, the kind of tension that grows when validation is not automatic but selective. When you hold back, when you make her wonder where she stands, desire begins to build. Imagine this scene. She throws a playful jab, expecting you to respond like every other man, quick to flatter, eager to reassure her she's funny, clever, beautiful. But instead, you pose. A smirk crosses your face. You let silence stretch a beat longer than expected. Maybe you tilt your head, as if deciding whether her words were even worth acknowledging. And when you finally reply, it's short, dry, maybe even a little challenging. That's the best you've got. That's when she feels the spark. Not because you praised her, but because you didn't hand over your attention so cheaply. Psychology explains why this works. We place the highest value on what we cannot fully predict or completely possess. When validation is endless, she knows exactly where she stands, and mystery dies. But when validation is rare, when it must be earned, it transforms into a reward. You flip the dynamic. She begins to lean in. She starts chasing. She works harder for the subtle nod of approval you almost never give. And here's the deeper truth. Most men miss withholding validation is not about playing games. It's about embodying self-respect. A man who values himself does not give away his energy cheaply. He doesn't validate everyone in the same way, because he knows his focus is precious. That's what women feel when an older man withholds not cruelty, not arrogance, but a disciplined selectiveness. It is the difference between fast food and vintage wine. One is everywhere, consumed without thought. The other is rare, savored slowly, remembered long after the taste fades. This is what makes the tease so powerful. It flips attraction on its head. She's no longer evaluating you. You've made her evaluate herself. She's no longer the prize handing out approval. You are. And that shift in dynamic is unforgettable. But here's the warning. If you can't master this, you'll always fall into the role of the man who gives too much and earns too little. You'll be forgettable. Another drop in the endless stream of validation she receives every day. So ask yourself, are you the man who gives it all away, or the man who makes her earn it? Because the next secret shows why silence itself can become your strongest weapon. And once you understand how to turn silence into fire, you'll never flirt the same way again. Flirting trick 5, the power of controlled silence. Most men panic when silence appears. They rush to fill the gap with chatter, with nervous jokes, with explanations that no one asked for. They believe that if the conversation isn't constantly alive, she'll lose interest. But younger women often find something magnetic in older men, the ability to sit in silence without flinching. Silence isn't weakness when you own it. Silence, when wielded correctly, becomes a display of dominance. Picture this moment. You're sitting across from her. She tosses out a teasing remark, maybe even something provocative. Every other man would scramble to reply instantly, desperate to keep the energy alive. But you hold still. You don't rush. You keep her gaze, and you let the silence stretch just a little longer than she expects. That pause unsettles her, but it also draws her in, because in that moment, she realizes you're not performing for her entertainment. You're not chasing her approval. You're comfortable enough to let her feel the full weight of your presence. Psychologists call this non-reactivity. It's one of the strongest indicators of confidence and status. When you're unbothered by silence, you're showing that you're not desperate to please. You're not afraid of what she might think. You're not chasing her validation. And this is exactly why younger women find it irresistible. Most of the men they meet are hyperactive, constantly talking, constantly selling themselves, throwing words into every space. But the man who can sit in silence without breaking, he feels like a rock in the middle of a storm. Here's the secret. Controlled silence isn't empty. It's communication. It says, I'm not in a rush. I don't need to prove myself. If you want more, you'll come closer. That's why it creates a gravitational pull, an invisible force that draws her toward you. She leans in. She starts talking more. She reveals more. She fills the silence because you refuse to. And in doing so, she invests deeper into the connection without you lifting a finger. Controlled silence is not avoidance, it's mastery. It requires patience, composure, and self-respect. It's not about ignoring her. It's about showing that your attention is valuable, and you won't give it away like loose change. This is why silence, when owned, transforms into an ally. It magnifies your presence. It makes every word you do choose to speak carry more weight, and it forces her to chase the connection you didn't force. But here's the danger: if you keep filling every gap with noise, you'll remain just another man who tries too hard. She won't remember your words, only the fact that you couldn't handle the quiet. So ask yourself, are you the man who fears silence, or the man who makes silence work for him? Because the next secret takes this even further. When you add unpredictability to your silence, when you mix stillness with playful disruption, you unlock a force younger women find impossible to resist. Flirting trick 6. The magnetic force of playful unpredictability. Here's a truth: most men never grasp routine, suffocates attraction. When a woman can predict exactly what you'll say, how you'll react, and the moves you'll make, she may feel safe, but she won't feel alive. Younger women sense this even more acutely. They live in a world of constant stimulation, endless pings, non-stop scrolling. Men lined up with the same predictable lines. What separates older men who flirt with depth is their ability to sprinkle in just enough unpredictability. Unpredictability doesn't mean chaos. It doesn't mean acting childish or random. It means breaking the pattern in subtle, deliberate ways. Imagine she expects a compliment on her outfit. Instead, you pose. You give her a half smirk and say, "That's dangerous." You don't explain it. You don't overdo it. You let the mystery hang in the air. Or picture this: she teases you, waiting for you to defend yourself like every other man. Instead, you laugh, lean back, and calmly reply, "You'll have to do better than that." Suddenly, she's off balance, but not in a bad way, in a way that excites her. The psychology here is simple. Unpredictability keeps her brain firing dopamine. When she can't fully predict your next move, she becomes more alert, more engaged, more drawn in. Evolutionary psychology shows that unpredictability activates the same brain circuits as reward anticipation. That's why younger women lean in so strongly it feels electric, alive, and unlike the ordinary. But here's the key: unpredictability only works when it's rooted in calm confidence. If you act unpredictable from insecurity, it feels like chaos. It feels immature. If you do it from grounded energy, it feels like intrigue. That's the difference between being dismissed as a boy and being remembered as a man. Playful unpredictability is an art. It's not about throwing curveballs for no reason. It's about weaving in just enough surprise to disrupt the script she's written in her head. Because, make no mistake, every woman has a mental script for how men behave around her. Most men follow it word for word, but when you step outside that script, when you deliver the unexpected with composure, you become the plot twist she never saw coming. This is why unpredictability has magnetic force. It shakes her out of autopilot. It pulls her into the present moment with you, and it plants a question in her mind she can't shake: what will he do next? That question is the spark of obsession. But here's the danger: if you never master this, you'll always remain forgettable. She'll put you in the same box as every other predictable man. And once she does, you'll never be the story worth remembering. So ask yourself, are you another line in her script? Or are you the twist that rewrites the whole story? Because the next secret reveals how depth, not just surprise, cements you in her memory forever. And when you add stoic gravity to playful unpredictability, you stop being entertainment and you become unforgettable. Flirting Trick 7, the stoic depth that makes you unforgettable. Attraction often begins on the surface. It can spark from looks, from quick banter, or from raw energy. But what truly keeps a younger woman hooked is something far rarer: depth. She's surrounded by men who text fast, who make jokes, who can take her out for a night of fun, but almost none can make her feel genuinely seen or touch the layers she hides from the world. This is where the older man steps apart. He doesn't just flirt with charm, he flirts with his depth. He carries a stillness, a weight that cannot be faked. It draws her in, almost against her will. She begins to wonder, who is this man? Really, picture the moment. She's laughing, teasing, playing the familiar games she's used to. But then, in the middle of it, you look at her, not with hunger, not with desperation, but with calm, steady eyes that hold both silence and strength. And then you ask not another shallow line, but a question that cuts through the noise. What do you really want out of all this? Or perhaps, when was the last time you felt truly free? You don't push. You don't explain. You let the silence do the heavy lifting. And in that moment, the game she thought she was playing collapses, because she realizes this isn't just another man chasing her approval. This is someone who can reach for her soul. Psychology confirms what experience teaches: women crave emotional intensity, not endless entertainment. When you mix playful flirtation with moments of raw, stoic depth, you shift from being fun to being unforgettable. Younger women are not drawn to older men simply for money or for stability. Those things fade quickly. What captivates them is the mystery, the sense that he carries both storms and silence within him, that he's not defined by the moment, but by everything he's lived through. This is why Seneca said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Your scars, your trials, your silences, these are not weaknesses. They are weapons. They allow you to flirt in ways no 20-year-old ever could. Not because you are trying harder, but because you have lived deeper. And here's the truth that can't be denied. It's not your words alone that stay with her. It's the depth behind them. It's the gravity that makes her lean in. It's the stillness that makes her restless, long after you've left the room. That is why she will never be able to forget you. But here's the danger. If you avoid your depth, if you run from silence, if you refuse to own your scars, you'll remain shallow. You'll be just another man in the crowd. Safe, predictable, forgettable. So ask yourself, are you willing to let your depth shine? Because the next step is bigger than attraction. It's about transformation. And when you combine stoic gravity with the art of connection, you stop playing games with women and start becoming the man who shapes the entire story. Here's the truth. Younger women are not drawn to older men because of money, flashy cars, or social status. Those things may catch an eye for a moment, but shallow. Attraction burns out quickly. What makes older men magnetic is that they have walked through storms, endured fire, and emerged calmer. sharper, and far harder to shake. The 7 principles we've explored are not just tactics, they are the natural expression of a man who knows himself, a man who no longer plays the childish game of begging for approval. That is the real secret. Women don't just crave excitement, they crave the man who makes them feel grounded, desired, and challenged all at once. But here's what most men miss. These tricks only work if they are backed by truth. You cannot fake calm when you are filled with anxiety. You cannot fake playful teasing when bitterness is eating you inside. You cannot fake depth if you've never wrestled with your own demons. The real work is not memorizing clever lines or imitating someone else's moves. The real work is becoming the man who radiates these qualities naturally. When you do that, the flirting takes care of itself. So if something in this message hit you, don't just nod and move on. Pause. Reflect. Ask yourself, where am I still acting like a boy when I should already be standing as a man? Change that, because the moment you shift, women will feel it. Younger or older, it doesn't matter. Attraction bends toward gravity, and the most irresistible men are the ones who carry that gravity into every room they enter. If you want more on how to sharpen that edge, break free from neediness, and step fully into the man women can't forget. Subscribe now. Drop a comment below which of these 7 principles struck you hardest, and which one must you master first. Because in the end, you don't win by chasing, you win by becoming. And when you embody calm confidence, playful strength, and stoic depth, she won't just notice you, she won't be able to forget you.